Guys, it's Ivan Bruce coming to you again this week for Communication 103. I'm going to be talking to you this week about something that's very near and dear to me, and I want to bring my audience in at this time before I get started. So if my audience will come on in. Thank you, audience. I want to talk to you about organ donation. Currently, there are 114,000 people on the waiting list for organs to be donated to them. Sadly, 20 people die every day waiting a life-saving organ. As a nurse, I have professional and personal both experiences with organ donation. As a new nurse working in a level 1 trauma center ICU, I was able to see the full circle. I had a patient who had been in a motor vehicle accident, which most of organ donations come from traumas. And I had a patient who had been in a motor vehicle accident, and he had been declared brain dead. And I had him one shift. And once they're determined brain dead, there's things that you have to do. You still have to keep the organs ventilated and keep them on mechanical ventilation and draw labs to make sure that lab values are in certain parameters to make sure the organs are viable. So I had him and took him to the OR to where they were going to harvest his organs. Came back the next night, and the trauma center is also a kidney transplant center. And the next night, I had my two patients that I had were two people that received his kidneys. So I got to see the full circle, the tragedy of the trauma and knowing that the young man wasn't going to make it, and then the life-saving donation and a new life for the two people that he helped and did provide that for. Every 10 minutes, someone's added to the donation list. Give you a little bit of background, 95% of the people nationwide say they support organ donation, but yet only 54% are signed up as donors. The three states with the highest percentage of citizens that are donors are Montana, Alaska, and the state of Washington. Montana, 89% of its residents are registered donors, 86% for Alaska, and 85% for the state of Washington. You can go online and become an organ donor. You can do it when you get your license at the DMV. When people are organ donors and they die, there's only 3 in every 1,000 people, 3 in every 1,000 deaths that the body is actually suitable to be for a organ donation. Now, there are 8 organs, so 8 lives can be changed with organ donation as far as organs go, but then it can touch over 100 lives because you can donate skin, you can donate corneas, you can donate muscle, tendons, ligaments, connective tissue, vessels, blood vessels when I say vessels. So over 100 lives can be touched. A little bit of history. Organ donation, the first successful human organ donation was done in 1954. It was a kidney transplant. Then later there was a kidney and a pancreas that was done. Then in the 60s, heart and liver had been done. And in the early 80s, the first successful double lung transplant was accomplished. In 1984, the federal government mandated the National Organ Procurement Act. And that law basically stated and cleared the way for organ procurement organizations to be formed. Those are independent, nonprofit, federally regulated organizations that assist in organ donation. The one that is for West Virginia, that assists West Virginia, is called CORE, and it's CORE, and that stands for the Center of Organ Recovery and Education. Education is a big part of organ donation. CORE covers Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and part of New York. When I, again, worked at the trauma center in West Virginia, CORE was all that I knew. And it is a federal law that hospitals have to report deaths or imminent deaths to CORE. They are mandated. So as a nurse, it's driven into you call CORE, call CORE, call CORE. So when I went to Virginia to work, I did not realize CORE was not national. And the first time I had a patient die, I kept saying, we got to call CORE, and people just looked at me like I was crazy. So in 2017, there were 34,770 transplants done, organs. That is a record number, and that's the record increase for the 5th year in a row. Over 84,000 corneas were transplanted as well, and the number of skin transplants were greater than that. Of those donors in 2017, about 6,100 were living donors and about 10,400 were deceased donors. So you can be a living donor of organs like kidney and part of a liver lobe, part of a lung lobe. That usually goes for family, but it can also go for friends if you prove to be a match. Some of the myths surrounding organ donation and some of the problems that people have with it are you can't have an open casket funeral. That is not true. You can't have an open casket funeral. The organ procurement organizations treat the body in a very dignified way, and you can't have an open casket funeral. Another one is the religion doesn't support it. While I can't sit here and say every religion supports organ donation, most major religions do support it and consider it to be the final act of generosity, love, and act of kindness that you can do for your fellow man. Another myth, and a big myth, is that we won't do everything we can do to save your life if you're an organ donor. And that's just not the truth, because our first and foremost mission is to save your life. And then after that, we want to continue your wishes, if you're an organ donor, to make sure that you can save other lives. So essentially, I want you to know that once you're educated, really organ donation is the only way to go. You can save so many lives, you can touch lives, you can affect so many people through organ donation. And I think that everyone should be an organ donor. Thank you.